Scary Movie finally got its legacy sequel, like all the horror movies in which it parodies, and it released today. And being a pretty big fan of spoof movies, and specifically the Scary Movie franchise itself, I was seated. Let's talk. Spoilers, obviously. First, some history. The OG Scary Movie released in 2000 and came at the perfect time. The slasher genre of the 80s returned in the 90s for a kind of renaissance, and by the 2000s, established tropes already existed, which made for its second return in the 2000s all the more welcomed. Scary Movie spawned countless more sequels, as well as pioneering the parody movie genre, almost none of which reached Scary Movie's heights of actual quality or cultural impact. And maybe one day I'll cover those other spoof movies, but for now, let's stick to Scary Movie. After Scary Movie 2, 3, 4, and 5, which released from 2001 to 2013, and all varied in quality compared to the original, thanks to the Weinsteins pushing out the actual creators, the Waynas brothers, we're in 2026, and we might just see the slasher movie genre return for another time, now that Scary Movie is back in a layer of irony from a legacy sequel which parodies the all-too-common horror legacy sequel, which slashers received in the 2010s. Not that I hate those, the Chucky and Halloween sequels are great. But despite the promise of the sequel, the marketing was fucking AIDS. Waynas brothers relied too heavily on trying to get cancelled in trailers and posters, which made me being excited for this unbearable, because every boomer was talking about how Gen Z were going to hate this. Spoiler, you made up a scenario in your head, and you were wrong, because I loved this. The plot is your usual legacy sequel plot. Old actors return to their iconic roles, there's new characters who are going to take over the franchise, but this being Scary Movie, of course they kill all these new characters off in a fiery blaze, because this is about the OGs, fool. Not that that matters, this franchise has no rules, and if we see a sequel, which I think we might, I guarantee these guys will be back. It parodies the legacy sequel tropes great. While on the topic of the sequels that might come quickly, I personally think it would be great. We could see them parody more things that came out this year, like Obsession and Backrooms, and I think those would be hilarious. But as I mentioned, all the OGs return, and they effortlessly channel these characters once again, particularly Anna Faris and Marlon Waynas. The characters feel just as ridiculously goofy and fun to watch as usual. Even the new ones feel fun. I could see the temptation from the Waynas brothers to mock Gen Z endlessly, and kind of expected it with the marketing, but they didn't go there. And it makes these characters much more fun to watch, and they don't feel so grating and kind of like talking down to the audience, which, let's be real, this is going to be made for now. I know that a lot of older people will go and see this, but there's going to be a time when if they keep making sequels, Scary Movie will be a Gen Z property. I'm sure that makes all the boomers have beans popping out their head. But that's just the facts. The movie has pretty good pacing. Finally, have something that isn't a 2-hour plus epic. I miss simple 90-minute romps that you could just get in and get out and enjoy. The script is great too. Most of the jokes hit, which is really relieving because the marketing really made it look like this was going to be terrible, edgy jokes that wouldn't even be funny all the way through, which would have been a real damper. I think the OG Scary Movie and the sequel somewhat, not particularly because they do vary in quality, really were kind of ahead of their time. And I was worried they would just pander down and take the franchise down with like terrible humor that they thought was funny, but just wasn't, unlike the originals. But luckily, it is funny. Even that they-them joke in all the trailers, it's good. The trailers don't do it justice. It plays out much better in the actual film. Granted, a few of the jokes are a bit outdated. That is just the nature of making a parody movie. By the time the thing comes to release, some of the jokes are going to be outdated. Particularly the Hawk Tour and 6-7 jokes. But I still laugh. I think it's a rare case. Those two memes have reached such a level of post-ironic death that they've wrapped back around to being ironically funny again. Even the Kai Cenat cameo doesn't feel too stupid. These movies have always had relevant people from the cultural zeitgeist in them in an effort to parody. Think Dr. Phil and Shaq, who actually returns here. The script is also jam-packed with references to horror movies of current day like The Substance, Sinners, and Weapons, as well as references to their own bits. Your favourites return here. What's up? Cindy's reference to I Know What You Did Last Summer's What Are You Waiting For? And I personally don't mind fan service. but I know a lot of people think it's cheap, but here it feels warranted. Scary Movie has always been referential, and the legacy sequels that this one is parodying are full of references to their OGs, so it feels in line with the parody to be referential to the OG Scary Movie. So I can kind of appreciate that layer of irony and that layer of parody, even if it wasn't intentional. And there's even some references to the Waynas brothers extended universe. One of the white chick turns up in the Substance parody for some reason. It really made me giggle. That was a great one. My theater experience was great too. I haven't heard so many laughs from an audience in a while, and I haven't even laughed at a film myself in a theater for a long while this much. It felt great. 4 out of 5 stars feels genuinely warranted for this one. It's on the level of the OG. Yeah, that was my review of Scary Movie 2026. What did you guys think? Let me know all your thoughts down below. I'm going to see you later. Goodbye.